Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. In today's video we are going to be talking about a very beautiful philodendron. I would say it is slightly rare. Probably you might not find it in your local nursery. If you find it, nothing like it, but it is a slightly rare kind of a philodendron. This is called as Philodendron Subhastatum. It is known for its foliage because there is something about the foliage. It has a bicolor, meaning the abaxil. Now this is something that I learned today and I thought I will share it with you guys because I'm not a botany student. This is something I just learned. It's called as the abaxil, meaning the surface beneath the leaf is going to have a different color. It's going to have a different tone to it. Now this is a new leaf, so the color is a little bit less, but if the leaf gets mature, the color is going to get even more darker. Like this is the oldest mature leaf on this plant, so you can see this. It is going to be very dark. Now this is the only reason why this plant is so famous, because of the underneath of the leaves. The upper leaves are going to be dark green in color, but this is what makes the plant attractive. I don't know how people are going to see this plant from beneath like this, and that what makes this plant very special. That is the bicolor. The abaxil is darker in color. So if you are a beginner, you can always add philodendrons in your collection. It's not necessary that you have to purchase only this one, but there are so many varieties of philodendrons and there are so many new coming up. What I have felt is philodendrons are very easy to take care. They are non-fussy, very low maintenance plants. They do not have a lot of requirements. So if you are a beginner, you want to add some large foliage plants or beautiful foliage plants, you can always opt for philodendrons. There are many varieties of philodendrons you can choose from. So let's talk a little bit in detail about this plant. Now this plant is a tropical plant, meaning it prefers a little warmer climate and a little bit of humidity. Let's first start with the light requirement, which is the most important. Please do not put this philodendron in direct sunlight, otherwise the leaves will get burnt. You can keep it in indirect bright light, or you can keep it in filtered light. You can grow it indoor as well as outdoor. If you're growing it indoor, ensure that you're keeping it near the window where there is a lot of light, but the sun does not directly fall onto the leaves. If the plant is very mature, probably early morning sun will be okay if the plant is well acclimated, but please do not expose it to afternoon direct sunlight. The leaves will get burnt and the plant overall will get damaged, so you have to be extremely careful. Talking about the soil mix, I tend to use the same soil mix, which is a mix of coco peat, garden soil, sand and perlite. The reason behind that, the coco peat, because this plant prefers a little bit of moisture in the soil but not soggy wet soil. Sand is basically to make the soil well draining, because these plants prefer well draining soil. Perlite is going to make the soil mix airy, so it's basically loose, porous, well draining soil mix, and a little organic rich. They prefer a little organic rich soil. So ensure that you're using a pot with drain hole, because they do not like to be sitting in a pool of water or soggy wet soil. Otherwise there will be root rot or the leaves will start to turn yellow and fall off. So be extremely careful. Now talking about watering, ensure that you check when the soil tends to dry. If you notice that the upper layer of soil is dry around 1 to 2 inches, go ahead and do a complete watering. Again, your watering will change as per the season. During summers, your frequency of watering is going to be a little bit more, and during winters, you will have to cut down on your watering. I would say probably you can do it once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. Again, it all depends upon your environment and climate. Now talking about temperature and humidity, as I said, this is a tropical plant. It prefers slightly warmer environment in order to grow. That's why its growing period is during the summers, and winter it tends to go either partial dormant or complete dormant, again depending upon how cold your environment is. So if you are from a place wherein the environment tends to get very cold, below 15 degrees Celsius, then please get your plant indoor. The plant will not do quite well in a very cold environment. Probably it might start to drop off all its leaves. Now it's the same if the temperatures rise above 35 degrees Celsius or below 15 degrees Celsius. Ensure that you get this plant indoor, otherwise the plant will not do quite well. It does not like too much of heat, it does not like too much of cold. Anywhere between 16 to 32 degrees Celsius is going to work out really well for this plant outdoor. If you're growing it indoor, please do not keep this plant under an air conditioning vent or a heater, otherwise that will damage the plant. Now talking about pest attack, yes, it does get affected with mealybugs, spider mites and white flies. It's always better to do a check once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. Check the underneath of the leaves. If you tend to see any kind of insects, you can go with any organic solution that you have been using all this while. Talking about propagation, just like any other philodendron, this is also an epiphyte. As you can see, this is the node. So if you want to propagate, you can always cut it 1 centimeter below. Then you can either put it into water or you can put it into the dry soil. Now, this is an epiphyte plant, which means that if you are using a pole, it will latch itself onto the pole with the help of these aerial roots. So you can either use a moss pole, coir rope pole, anything will work out really well. It will latch itself onto it and it will start to grow. This is a typical trait of a philodendron. You can see this is the sheath, because this is the new leaf that is coming up, so it is going to have a sheath. This is how you tend to recognize a philodendron. They always have a sheath that tends to dry out. Eventually, when the new leaf tends to come out, the new leaf is always protected with the sheath. As and when the leaf starts to grow, the sheath will dry off and it will fall off. It will get disconnected on its own. So it is pretty simple to propagate this plant. You can always do a stem cutting just 1 centimeter beneath the node, and then the plant will do quite well. It will start to propagate. As I said, you can either use a pole or you can put it into the pot. It will do well either ways. Now, talking about, is this plant toxic? Yes, this plant is toxic. Every variety of philodendron is very toxic, especially if you're doing a propagation. Ensure that you're using gloves, because the sap, if your skin is very sensitive, the sap can irritate your skin. It can lead to allergy, so be extremely careful. If you have small kids or pets around, ensure that you're keeping this plant away from the reach of them, because if you ingest the leaves of this, it can be quite toxic. Apart from that, the sap also being, or the plant milk also being very toxic. So guys, that's all about it. Overall, this plant is very easy to grow. If you are a beginner, you are interested in dark colored foliage leaves, you want something that tends to put out large leaves, then philodendron is your answer. Not specifically this variety, but you can go with any variety of philodendron. They will work out really well. Talking about humidity, yes, this plant prefers a good amount of humidity. Anywhere above 60% is going to work out really well. If you have a very dry home, then you can use a humidifier, or you can club other plants around it and the plant will do quite well. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep planting.